Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. In this video, I want to compare cPanel to Interworks' SiteWorx. So if you've been following our YouTube or following our VPS hosting packages, you know that Interworks now comes free, a free license on every one of our VPS hosting packages. So Interworks allows you the ability to create unlimited SiteWorx accounts. So for those of you that don't want to get involved with the whole cPanel licensing deal where they're now no longer licensing one VPS, instead it's per account, I believe you're going to find a lot of value inside of Interworks. Now, Interworks' version of cPanel, so to speak, is called SiteWorx. So in this video, I'm going to load up a server or a VPS with cPanel, and we're going to compare it to SiteWorx so you can see the differences and come to a better decision on which one is best for you and for your business. Now, of course, I don't want this to come across as that I don't like cPanel, because I've used them for a little bit over 2 decades now, and I've always been a big fan of cPanel, and cPanel still comes standard on all of our web hosting and reseller hosting packages. But it was our VPS hosting specifically where we needed another option. We needed an option that allowed unlimited accounts for those that needed the ability to create accounts without the worry of having to jump to a new license tier. So I think you'll find a lot of value in this. And again, it's your business, so it's only you that can make the decision. Is cPanel best or is Interworks best for me? Interworks is complimentary on all of our VPS hosting packages, but cPanel is also available at a very discounted rate, so you're not going to pay the retail cPanel cost for each license tier. We've discounted those by nearly 50% on most of the tiers. All right, so without further ado, let me get into it. I'm going to pull up my client area where I've got a couple of VPSs deployed, one with Interworks and one with cPanel, so we can go side by side. So I'm going to first select my cPanel one, and I'm going to pull up my Interworks one. So when you get to it in our client area, both the VPSs, they look almost the same, but if we get down here to server information, the main difference here is you're going to see a web host manager and cPanel link. With the Interworks one, you're going to see a NodeWorks link. So I'm going to be showing an example logging through the master control panel so I can virtually log in to SiteWorx, and the same with my cPanel server. I'm going to log in through Web Host Manager. If you are a VPS hosting customer, you do have the root access, so you can virtually log into any cPanel account to follow along. And likewise, if you've got an Interworks server with us, you can log in through NodeWorks. So let's go ahead and pull up NodeWorks right here. And I'm going to enter my email address. So that's a difference from Web Host Manager, is you use your email address and your root password. So it's going to bring us on up here. And I'm going to go ahead and just close this page out. I'll go over here to my Web Host Manager. 1 second, I've got to look here at my other window to get my password. And these credentials can be found in login details. You just have to have 2-factor enabled for those to show in there. Web Host Manager, and again, this is secure. It's we use a temporary link, so it's the IP address, and it's a self-signed certificate, but it is secure, so you can ignore this warning and proceed. And we do that because most VPS customers, as soon as they sign up, they don't have their DNS and free SSL generated yet, so we give them the temporary IP link, so you can always access your control panels. Okay, so now we're inside of Web Host Manager. Let's just close this window out. Okay, so we are going to virtually log into cPanel. So I'm going to go to List Accounts, and I only have one domain set up, and I just set up KeyDiets as a demo domain, and I'm using all the default features here if you're deploying a VPS at NameHero. So if you're deploying your own servers elsewhere, some of your options might be a little bit different. So I'm going to click into cPanel. So now I'm inside of cPanel. I'm going to go over here to NodeWorks, and I need to go to SiteWorx, Accounts, and I've got a couple of test domains in here as well. Since I've got KeyDiet set up here too, let's go ahead and click SiteWorx and go in there. Okay, so this is what your end customers are going to see. If you're a reseller web host, this is the interface that they're going to see. And likewise with cPanel, this is what they would see on their end. So let me really quick, I'm just going to minimize these, because when they first load it up, it looks like this. So you see the Interworks logo, and to the right you see the SiteWorx logo. Now I've got the ability to change domain since I'm logged in as kind of the root user. Your user obviously will only be able to manage their main domain, so they won't have this option here. And if I go to cPanel, you can see the same thing. If I had multiple users, I could switch. But again, since I'm logging in with root, I've got that ability. If I'm your end user, then they cannot see that. Okay, so right off the bat, we'll just compare the dashboard. So when you first get in here, you've got my info. So we got the master domain, the user, the root user to the account, and the IP address assigned to the domain, as well as the account features like bandwidth, disk, email, SQL databases, you know, all the features they've got on their account. And when I created this account, I just did unlimited, so you can see it's all green. There's not going to be any usage. Then I've got some quick links here, like add an email box, change my FTP password, add a subdomain, or view the error log. I then have a snapshot, and this includes the bandwidth. Again, I'm not a huge bandwidth user chart fan because most people don't come close to using it, but you know, some people might find value in that. Now, if we compare this over to cPanel, you're going to see I've got a search box. It's a little different, but my general information's here on the right. So I've got my domain, my IP address, the home directory, the IP address that I last logged in from, my theme. I can see the server information if I would like, and again, you can restrict this if you don't want them to see that. And then of course the statistics, you know, all the features, which again, this is unlimited as well, so there's not going to be any usage. And then in the middle here, I've got all the features of cPanel, and by default these are all expanded. So by default with SiteWorx, these are all minimized here, whereas cPanel, these are expanded out. Okay, so that's, you know, the dashboards are pretty similar, and nothing too crazy that's different. You do have the ability to edit your SiteWorx template inside of NodeWorks. So I could change this to show like icons instead of this. If you want more of a cPanel look, you can do that. Again, the purpose of this video is just showing kind of default to default, but with both, even cPanel, you've got the ability to customize based on your business. So the first link here is just SiteWorx Home. So that's just this main dashboard. Now if I expand hosting features, you can see I've got email, domains, FTP, MySQL, cron jobs, htaccess, and Softaculous. And you can see email, domains, and FTP and MySQL, I can expand these out. So starting with email, you know, I can see if I just click email, it's going to automatically expand it out. But overview, I've got my email accounts that just kind of the overview of all the mail. You know, mailboxes, there's one. There's no aliases, groups, autoresponders, or nothing right now. And what to do with bounced messages, reject it, or accept, then discard mail addresses to invalid recipients, so not recommended. It is recommended that you reject email, you know, that's coming in with invalid. Now, if I go to cPanel, their email has its own little thing here. So it's you're listed right here on the dashboard, you know, and it's kind of the same thing: email accounts, autoresponders, track delivery, and all that stuff. So full email management is right here versus it's right here inside of Interworks. And I think too, if I just click email accounts, well, this is actually going to show all the email accounts. So yeah, it's all managed right here on the main page. And with inside SiteWorx, it actually expands out to here. So kind of the same features, you know. If I go to mailboxes, this is where I can create an email box. Postmaster key diets, I think this is default setup. And again, you can control this. You can say, you know, I do want a default box set up, or I don't. And you do that inside of NodeWorks. But again, I'm just showing everything default. And if I go to email accounts here, you can see it sets up just a default one with the account, and it shows it here. So I could, I don't think you can't delete the default box, but you can check the email, manage it, and also connect the devices. These both do have webmail. So if I go to check email on the default account, it sends me over here to webmail, and I've got the options of Horde and Roundcube. So I would just click one of these, and then it logs me in so I can see inside of Horde. If I go to Interworks and I go to edit, I can just edit the box here. But if I wanted to log into webmail, I would actually need to go down to here and then log in. So, and again, I'm not sure the Postmaster login because it's just set up for me automatically. I'd have to check, but I'll just make one really quick so you can see the difference. So So let's do Ryan, generate a secure password, and we'll copy it. Unlimited add. All right, let's go over here to webmail. So we'll just go Ryan at keydiets.com, put my password in, and I've got the options of round Q or horde. Log in. I think I did round cube here. No, I did horde. So round cube, and I can go back here and just show you horde. Go back, or show you round cube on cPanel. Round cube. So here's round cube in my webmail, and here's SiteWorx webmail. So you can see it's basically the same. I mean, there's no real difference. And again, if I go back here, I can select horde, my password here, and log in. And it's asking for it again. Let's just try it again. It might have had a cookie set. I'm not sure. Enter my password. Let's see if that logs us in now. Nope, it's okay. It's probably got my cookie set. But anyways, you've got both options on both control panels. I think that's, you know, the main point here is that you do have two webmail clients and they are the same. And I just closed out of SiteWorx. Just 1 second while I pull it back up. Got a little trigger happy there. But, you know, I do like the fact that they've got, you know, both those options. You know, both cPanel and SiteWorx have those options because your audience is probably going to be familiar with both of those clients. You know, Squirrel Mail used to be, it was one of my favorites, but they pulled it out of cPanel and they eventually pulled it out of Interworks as well. Oops. And both control panels have the ability to set up IMAP or POP. So if you're, you know, if your audience, and I've got the wrong one now, for crying out loud. And so, you know, both of your audiences, you know, they can set up their own clients if they want to, you know, if they're using Thunderbird or Outlook or whatnot. And again, I've just got myself all messed up here. I've got the wrong server. So you do have options. You know, I think that's your audience that's coming over from cPanel into Interworks. They're gonna, you know, there's really no difference. So I think that's a good benefit. Just 1 second here while I get the right one. It's a little early here, and I haven't had enough coffee apparently to get me going here. All right, so now this is going to bring us back in, and we're just going to go to accounts and go back into SiteWorx for key diets. All right, so let's go back to comparing and contrasting both of these panels. All right, so that's email, and again, we've got the option on both to set up all the same options. You know, forwards. You know, if you want to forward email, in SiteWorx here, it's just called aliases. So you know, if I wanted to forward Ryan at Key Diets to an email address, I could do it here. And same here. You know, if I wanted to add a forward to do Ryan at Key Diets, I could send it here. So kind of the same options. And then it goes into groups. So groups is like I would do, for example, maybe partners. If I had other managers or other owners in the Key Diets website, I could do partners and forward it to many. Inside of cPanel, I don't know if they have a group, or I don't know if they have group or not. Let's see. Delivery, spam filters. Yeah, I don't think that they do. I think I have to set it up a different way. I don't think I can forward to multiple addresses. I think I just forward it to one. Yeah, I think that's how it works. So the groups options is pretty valuable. I know G Suite or Google Apps formerly has the option to do that, and I know I've used that a lot with those. So that's pretty valuable. Autoresponders. You know, I think me personally, I think these are kind of outdated. You know, to send a vacation notice when everyone has their phone on them with their email, but still you have the option, and you have the option in cPanel as well to do a autoresponder. Even though I think they're ancient, some people might not. But anyway, so that's, you know, basically the same features. You know, I do know that cPanel has a little bit more as far as mailing list and the track delivery option, you know, to see where your emails are routing if you have some issues, and then their spam filtering, which we do have that as well inside of SiteWorx. And then they also have the encryption, so where you can send like PGP keys and stuff like that, where I'm not seeing that inside of Interworks. So, you know, both have the same core features, you know, setting up mailboxes, the same webmail clients, forwards. SiteWorx has the grouping, And cPanel has a little bit more features as far as mailing lists and setting up your secure email, and also tracking delivery. So at their core, same features. cPanel is a little bit more detailed. I think that comes from the amount of customers cPanel has currently versus SiteWorx. But I would expect some of those more popular ones to be put in. For me, the webmail thing was probably the most important, because if we have customers that are used to webmail and then you take that away, then of course there would be an issue. So email, not much difference. If we go down here to domains, this is obviously very important, because we have what they call in SiteWorx secondary. And so this is the same as cPanel's add-on domains. So if I go to domains, I can see add-on domains. So this is for your customers that have more than one domain and they want to be able to host content for more than one domain. They can do it with add-on domains. And if you're reselling web hosting, this is a huge upsell. Give the customer the ability to have hosting for one domain, 5 domains, or unlimited. And so cPanel, you do this by creating an add-on domain. And so you just type it in here. It's like default.com, and then it creates a kind of a subdomain, a sub document root into where I can add it. Inside of SiteWorx, they call these secondary, and so I would just type my domain in here. What I like about SiteWorx is they give you the option right off the bat to select the PHP version for this domain. So even though it's different than your master, it can use a different version of PHP. You can do this in cPanel as well, but you have to use their multi-PHP manager. So you would actually have to go into multi-PHP manager, select your domain, and then select the PHP version. So I think that SiteWorx is a lot more direct in that aspect. Also, if this account had a dedicated IP, another IP assigned to it, you could select a specific IP. We don't use IP6 right now, so that's not an option. And of course, once you set up more than one domain, you then have the option here to edit, to change things around. If I click edit here, this is the master domain, so this would just be editing the PHP version. I think once I create one in cPanel, I could create a redirect right inside of here if I wanted just to redirect it. Going back, we have what's called a pointer. This is like a parked domain, as sometimes it was referred to, but it actually creates a v-alias, a virtual alias for the website. So this is valuable, if you want to send, it's permanent, temporary, or alias. So an alias will, if I use like keydietsnew.com to keydiets, it would keep keydietsnew in the user's browser. But it would show the content from Key Diets. So that's helpful, if you have a different domain but want to show the same content. Or if you want to redirect it, you could do a 301 or a 302 based on your SEO efforts. Inside of cPanel, you can do both, but this is called some different stuff here. You've got aliases, and so this would be actually creating that alias, remember, to have the different domain but same content. Or you've got the ability just to redirect with a 301 or 302. So, same features there, just different spots. Subdomain, this is where I would create a subdomain for, say, Key Diets. So I would just type in like sub. I can add it in here. And it's going to take a second. If I go back to cPanel, under domains, I've got subdomains. And then I could add sub.keydiets. It gives me a document root where I would upload my files and then create. It's been created. And kind of same thing here. I can upload files to this document root from my subdomain, or I could redirect it to somewhere else. So, I could redirect that to an external URL, or I could return a internal URL. It's up to me. If I go in here, you can see the subdomains created, and I've got the ability to upload the content inside of here. And if I wanted to redirect this, there's a different way that I'd have to do it. So I don't want to go through that right now because it's not here. But you do have the ability to do both. So close out that one. Okay, PHP options. This is for the main Key Diets domain. Click Edit, and I could select a different version. Now, when I set up this SiteWorx account, I only put one version in here. So I would actually have to give this user the ability to select multiple versions, which is easily done. And if you go back and watch my tutorial on NodeWorks, you'll see how to do that inside of there. With cPanel, I have to go to multi-PHP, so multi-PHP manager. and this is where I would control that. So like for sub, you can see they're both using 7.1 and they both have PHP FPM. But if I wanted to change sub to something else, I can do that here. You know, I can change it to 7.0, 5.4. Don't recommend doing that. But basically, you know, they both have the ability to use multiple versions of PHP per domain, per subdomain, and it's fairly easily to set up. DNS records. So these are all my DNS records for key diets. And if I click View Records, I can then see them in here. Now, inside of NodeWorks, you've got the ability to set up a template. So every SiteWorx account you create will kind of have these records by default. The NS1 and NS2, these are special because that was our primary domain. So that's why this has those. And most other accounts would not have these unless you added them manually. In cPanel, this is called Zone Editor. Let's type in zone. And I can see here, I can add an A record, add a CNAME, add an MX record, or click Manage. And so here's all my records. Once again, I've got these NS1 and 2 because this is my primary domain. Most other accounts would not have that. But edit, delete, you know, do what I needed to do. And same here, Interworks. If I need to add a record or an A record for an IP6, CNAME, MX, SPF, SRV, text, or CAA, I can do that inside of here. And then, of course, I can always manage these too if I needed to set these up as well. Edit all SPF, and this gives you like a generator for the SPF, you know, your email records, whereas cPanel has these in authentication. Oh, they changed it. It's email deliverability. I think that's what they call it now. Yes, so email deliverability, I go to manage, and here's where I can set up DKIM and SPF records. And this helps email deliverability. This helps you know, let incoming servers that are receiving email know that it's coming from, in fact, key diets and not being spoofed. Interworks has the same ability, you know, to edit SPF records. And if I go back, I can set up my domain keys, DKIM. So I just click Add, and here's where I could do testing or no. I could enable it, and I can view my keys here. And so all that's set up. So, you know, in short, as far as DNS records goes, both control panels, SiteWorx versus cPanel, are the exact same. Okay, now this one has Cloudflare. This is an add-on available with us at NameHero. So if you purchase the add-on, your customers or your SiteWorx accounts have the ability to set up Cloudflare inside of here. They would be able to use their email and password, and then they could create a new account if it doesn't already exist. So if your customer already has a Cloudflare account, they would just use this to log in, and then they can enable Cloudflare on their domain right here. And the same for cPanel. Now this VPS, it doesn't have the Cloudflare add-on, which is available as an upsell. It's a $29.95 one-time setup fee for both, and they would have that same ability. So both have Cloudflare that's available if needed. SSL, you know, this is probably one of the most popular features in both control panels. So let's spend some time on it. If I go to cPanel, this is called SSL TSL. Oh wait, I don't have this enabled inside of here, the auto SSL. So if I go back, let's see here. If I go to SSL, yes, I need to enable this. So let me go into Web Host Manager and do that really quick, just so you can see the differences. So by default with SiteWorx, Let's Encrypt's already in there and ready to go. If I do my cPanel server, I've got to, let me go over here and grab my password again. I've got to actually enable that for the customer. So if I go to Web Host Manager and log in, my page is frozen. Here we go. So log in. I would need to go to my features, feature manager, my default feature. Whoops. SSL. And it says it's enabled. Why is it not on this? I'm not quite sure why it's not showing in there. Yep, I'm not sure where it is. So it is in there. You can enable it. By default, it is disabled. So, and I am using the cPanel default SSL. That's maybe why. If I change my auto SSL to use Let's Encrypt versus cPanels, it would probably be in there then. So again, both have the ability to do auto SSL. Now, the thing about SiteWorx is it's got this Let's Encrypt, and you can run it right here. So you can generate all, and this would run your SSL certificate. So this would actually generate that to make sure you're good. Now you can see I've already done this on key diets, so it says installed. If it did not, then I could run it. And again, if I'm using Let's Encrypt Auto SSL on cPanel, I could go to its SSL TSL status. So I would have another icon that says SSL TSL status, and then I could force run it. But again, since it's automatic, you wouldn't really have to worry about it anyways. But that's a way that your customers could check it. You know, I know at NameHero, on our shared accounts, you've got that ability to do that, so you could always check it. And I can show you an example, actually. I think I might have an account here that I can show you. Let's see. Yep, Starter Cloud. Let's see here, and I'll show you. I go into cPanel. So this is all of our shared and reseller accounts here. Yep. So SSL TSL status. If I click that, then you can see I've got green locks everywhere. And if I didn't, I could highlight them and run auto SSL. So you can enable that on your VPS as well to make sure your customers or users could force run it if they need to, if the SSL is not generating. So that's a huge, huge feature. I mean, your customers, if you're reselling, or your clients, you know, they'll love that because they don't have to pay for an SSL certificate. So both SiteWorx and cPanel are integrated. That's great. You know, I'm glad to see that everyone's moved to that direction, because SSL is so needed nowadays, and I don't believe you should have to pay. FTP, so you know, same here. If I just click it, it expands to accounts or sessions. So this is where I can add FTP accounts. By default, I've got this FTP user created, and I can delete the default or edit it, or I can change the password. I believe this password is just whatever the default password was when you created the SiteWorx account, but of course you should encourage your users to change it to something strong, and they can. In cPanel, FTP is much the same. I just type in FTP. I like this quick search in cPanel since there's so many options. I can just kind of click to what I need to get to. But same stuff here. FTP accounts, you know, by default, you've got your default user, and there's one for logs. But so the default user I created, but I can add another FTP account, and I can't delete my default user. If I wanted to change the password, this is actually the root, or the cPanel password for the user is the same as their FTP. So same features in there as far as FTP is concerned. Create accounts, you know, have a default one set up, change your password, all that stuff. You do have the option to see sessions. So, you know, if you want to check to see if, you know, someone FTP'd in, you know, other than me, you can check that. And, you know, cPanel is much the same here. If I go to FTP, I can see connections, and I'll see if there's any concurrent connections going on. So this is helpful too if you need to troubleshoot issues that, you know, maybe you left your laptop connected and you're trying to connect somewhere else and you've hit your max connections because of security. You can kill processes or check that as well. But mainly this is to make sure that there's nothing malicious going on. MySQL, once again, if I click it, it just brings down this menu. So I can add MySQL databases. And once again, at NameHero, this is Maria databases in SiteWorx and inside of cPanel. So let's go back here. And Maria is just a MySQL drop-in. All your same scripts work the same, if not better, including WordPress with Maria database. So I know some customers get confused over that. Maria is a drop-in replacement for MySQL. So it operates the exact same. All your scripts will still work and all that. But I can create me a new database here. I can modify databases, and I can also add MySQL users. And Interworks, kind of same thing here. I can add my database. I can create a user with it and give them permissions. You know, whereas cPanel, I need to create the database and then create the user separately. But I can do the same. I can add permissions and stuff inside of cPanel as well. If I go over here, users, a specific section just for creating the user, you know, username, password, and then I can add them to databases. And same in cPanel. You know, I can do just the users here as well. If I go back to MySQL, you can see they've actually got a wizard. They kind of, you know, step one, create a database. So they've just added that in recent years, if memory serves me correct, just to make it easier on beginners to create a database. And then they've got the option, you know, to use a remote MySQL host. So, you know, if your user or customer has a remote server out there that they want to connect MySQL to, they can. I don't know if, I don't think that's an option inside of here, inside of SiteWorx for the end user to have a remote. I know it is for the root. We'll get to File Manager in a second. Preferences. Yeah, so I don't think, I'm sure you could configure it inside of NodeWorks, though, if you wanted to do that, if your user wanted to. From my experience, there's not a lot of users that want to do that, but I have seen some, and we'll go back and just confirm that. Let's see here. Let's just do a test and see, make sure. Yeah. I go to here, add to MySQL database, action manage users. Yeah, so this is all just localhost. If I wanted to add a remote one, I would need to do that, set that up through NodeWorks. So a little bit different there. I think that gives cPanel a little bit more flexibility that a user can connect to a remote SQL database. Some people do disable that though for security. All right, so kind of same features, and both have PHPMyAdmin. So again, that's really important to me. I love PHPMyAdmin, so you can see this is bringing it up inside of SiteWorx and cPanel. If I go PHPMyAdmin. So I've got my PHPMyAdmin here, and you can see they look almost identical. It shows you the Maria database version, same inside of here, and all that. It shows the user, it's on here. So same stuff, and that's very valuable and very useful. Your audience will be happy that you have that, and trust me, if for me that was that could be a deal breaker, right? Okay, so we'll just go now, keep on going down the list. Cron jobs. If I click it, I can add a cron. So I've got my default options here, the commands that can be used. I can add one through the simple interface, which configures it for me if I don't know all the minute, hour, and day, which I don't. I always use this. And as well as a script, I can add it. Or if I am a server guru, which I consider myself a server guru, but I still don't like to use the advanced interface, I can set it up here. cPanel has the same stuff here. If I go to cron jobs, I can get an email, with the cron job. I don't like, and currently it just uses the default. Personally, I don't like emails because they fill up my box, but you can. Some people like to. But you've got the option in here to use their editor here. Gives you the quick settings, and then I can modify these, if I need to. So again, same options, just kind of different format. htaccess. So this is a little different. This actually is my global and my per directory options. So a global htaccess is going to be for all my subdomains and extra domains that I add. So options here affect the entire site, including subdomains. And so this installs in the web root directory. So if I wanted to add it here, it automatically adds the file here, and then I can edit it to put what I want to in it. So, I've got the ability for access control, default character set, index management, hotlink protection, and PHP variables. So this is how SiteWorx controls the PHP memory limit and all that stuff. And I'll click it here. So see, this here is, max quotes, inherited, on off, register globals, inherited, on off, and this inherits from the default config and all that stuff. If I just wanted to update it, I'd put it in here, and there we go. So now if I wanted to, and I think that's the only variables it can do. If I want to do memory limit, I have to do that in a different spot. So it's good that I saw that in there. But same with your error documents and MIME types and all that other stuff. Anything that you would normally be adding in your htaccess, you can use this editor to do it there. And when we get down to file manager and stuff, I'll show it in there as well. But it's going to create an htaccess file in here. So in cPanel, this is a little different. So, with access control, for example, cPanel actually has this as directory privacy. So I click this and I would select, what directory do I want a password? Maybe public HTML. So I, put a name for it. So I create a user. So it's a little bit more, beginner friendly. Whereas here I'm going to do access control. Oh, and this isn't actual users. I'm sorry. I'm getting kind of going all over the place here. So this would deny access or allow, and I could trust IP addresses or block IP addresses. So this is IP blocking in cPanel. IP blocker. So this would be inside of here. So again, same functionality, just different place. And it's interesting. I thought there would be a place to put a password, which I could still do, but it's a little bit more manual configuration in there. Redirects, though, that's cPanel has a whole redirect section, whereas they list it there. So like if I want to do redirects, I add them in here. Interworks, I would set up the redirects here. Redirect from to, temporary or permanent. So both have redirect generators, just in different spots. Handlers. This is my handler and my extension in cPanel. What do they call handler? Apache handlers. So here, handler and extension. So this is, how do you handle PHP files, PHTML, PHP 7, here's your system ones, so you can kind of change these up or add these if you want. So basically same thing, just different places. Error documents, I can add where my 404, custom error pages, I guess is what this is called. Where do these errors go to? And cPanel just simply calls them custom error pages. If I go to error pages, I can modify these inside of cPanel. And I think too, they have a nice editor here to where I can add these. Whereas Interworks is like, where is the page? You create the page yourself and we'll direct it. So, both same functionality. I think cPanel is a little bit more detailed. SiteWorx more core oriented. It seems like SiteWorx is trying to keep it more simple. cPanel goes a lot more in depth. And I think the reason being for this, and we're seeing this kind of develop as a pattern, that's because cPanel has so many customers over the years. They've had all these requests that have been asked, and so they've added them in. I would assume as SiteWorx continues to pick up steam throughout the industry, they'll start to get a little bit more specific. Okay, so let's go. Let's keep going down the list here. So it's HTXS Softaculous. So this is the auto installer. And again, if you're watching this video and you're not at NameHero, actually I want to open another window. This might not be in there. This is provided that you are hosting with us at NameHero, because all of our hosting packages come with a free Softaculous license. So regardless if you buy web hosting, reseller hosting, VPS hosting, coming soon dedicated hosting, you're going to have a Softaculous license. So you just have to agree to it. And so your customers will love this. They'll be able to use Softaculous. And this is where they can install WordPress, I can't even pronounce that, PrestaShop, Joomla, PHP, WHMCS. They can install any of these scripts with one click. WordPress is the most popular. They go to install and they choose their version, HTTPS, their domain or their subdomain or their add-on domain or secondary domain as SiteWorx calls it. They can do everything inside of here, adding WordPress, using these themes and install it. If they want to do a quick install, they can do that as well. Just eliminate some options. If I go to cPanel, same thing. If I go on down here towards the bottom, you'll see Softaculous is here. So this is a little different in the fact that cPanel provides these quick links. Instead of just going to Softaculous, you can actually click WordPress and it brings it up here. So again, it looks identical though. The auto installers are there. You got the same options. If you have existing apps, you can update. So same functionality. Quick installs, quick updates, quick staging, quick cloning, all the same features that you have on all the NameHero hosting packages. So that's the same. And again, that's probably, that and Auto SSL to me are the most important things. Webmail also, is kind of an added bonus there. But, I think as long as control panels have this, have Softaculous and SSL, most of your customers are going to be really, really pleased with, whichever one you go with. So, back to the original question, why would you be looking at Interworks? Well, a lot of people are looking to Interworks because unlimited accounts, right? Because with cPanel, if you want to have 5 cPanels, then you're going to pay a different price than if you need 100 cPanels. So with Interworks, it doesn't matter if you have 5 or 100, it's the same price. With cPanel, at NameHero, 5 accounts is a certain price, and then 100 accounts is a certain price. So those pricing levels are, the big difference. So if you need to host a lot of accounts, Interworks might be your best bet if you're wanting to save and budget, as far as like the core features that your customers are looking for. Okay, now that's hosting features. And if I go to administration, user accounts. This is a big feature here because this shows the primary SiteWorx user. So your customer, when you created their account for them, you set up an email, a login for them for SiteWorx. If they want to add someone, they can here. So this is really valuable, if they have a developer, a coder, web designer, or someone else that needs access to SiteWorx, they can create them a child account so they don't have to provide their same login. And not only can they create it, but then they can restrict what they have access to. Obviously they want login privileges, but they can, specific options. You also have the ability to lock a domain. So this means, if you want to create the user for a secondary domain, or even a subdomain, you can give that user access to only that domain. So it's, you're not giving them the whole access to SiteWorx, just very limited. cPanel does not have this feature. So I logged out of cPanel for crying out loud. So let me get back in here. I know this is something we get a lot of support tickets about at NameHero, about users. So, if you go over here, the user manager, and I add one, I can only add a basic user to give them access to email, FTP, or my file manager. I can't actually create them a cPanel access with limited permissions. This is something that, again, a lot of people get confused about because they'll create this account like, hey, why can't they get into cPanel? Well, it's not for cPanel, it's for these extra services. I know cPanel is working on this feature, but they don't have it yet. So that's another big difference right now with SiteWorx and cPanel, is the ability to create child accounts for the actual control panel for the user. I'm going to assume, since Interworks is coming about and getting more popular, cPanel will probably put a fire under adding this, but they don't have it yet. So huge feature here. I love that because it's so much needed. Because why would you want to give your developer all cPanel access? It's a huge security risk because, if someone has your cPanel user and pass, they can virtually log into all your email accounts. So do you want your developer, your coder you've hired, reading your emails? No, I don't. So that's a huge feature there that SiteWorx has. Logs, this is viewing like your server logs or Let's Encrypt logs. So, if you just to kind of view what's going on. And this also shows in your browser. So just some quick viewing to diagnose issues. cPanel's logs are a little limited. So if I just type in logs, you can see here I've got my raw access logs. So I can download my Apache logs, my SSL logs, and see them. But these actually, if I click them, it downloads to my computer and I have to unzip them and view them. Whereas Interworks, you can view them here and you can also download them. So I like the log manager inside of SiteWorx. It's nice not having to download it, and I can view through here. And I've got the error log, SSL transfer, or SSL transfer log. cPanel, I do have an error log as well. So if I type in errors, it will show me the last 300 errors here. So they've kind of got that, but I think SiteWorx is a little bit more user-friendly in my opinion. Recent visitors, this shows the IP addresses that have been to your site recently. And so like this here is a server validating that SSL, but I went to set up config yesterday when I was doing this video, and this shows my IP hitting that page. Let's see here, what's it called inside of cPanel. So they've got visitors. I can select here, and you can see it here. So it's similar here. I can see the IP, the URL, the time, what they're going to. Here. So, this is good too to diagnose if you're getting attacked, like a DDoS, you can see like the same IP would be flooding your site here. So that's kind of important to show, what's the latest visitors look like to help you diagnose. So both offer that. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to minimize here where we're not needing. Okay, authentication. This is two-factor. So if I wanted to create a two-factor policy for this SiteWorx user, I can. And cPanel has this as well. And I think I would need to enable this inside of Web Host Manager. So I'm in Web Host Manager here, two-factor auth. I would enable it here. And let's see if that adds it without having to log back in. Yeah, two-factor. So you just have to turn it on in Web Host Manager, whereas it's already on in SiteWorx. So your users, they'll want this, and we encourage everyone at NameHero to enable this on their account, because basically when they log in to cPanel or your user logs into SiteWorx, after they log in, username and password, it asks them to enter a 6-digit code from the Google Authenticator app. So that makes sure that no one's guessed or hacked the account. It is the person, because these are unique to the smartphone that they're on, and there's really no way around that. So it adds a lot of security. Two-factor is huge nowadays. You really need to be using this. All right, so on down the list here, mail options. So this gets to a little bit more email. So like remote, If I want to, this is set up here to be local delivery. If I wanted to disable it, it would disable mail in this domain altogether. So if you're using G Suite instead of local, you'd want to just disable this altogether so you're not getting any email on the local accounts and you could send it elsewhere. And this is where you could modify those MX records. cPanel has this in another little section. So MX, it's called email routing. So for key diets, click it, and here, so I would say right now it's local, but if I wanted to change this to remote, I could do this here, and then, so it's going to make everything go remote, but then I needed to go add an MX record. So I would add my MX record here and put my G Suite. Here in SiteWorx, I would just disable it, and then I can add it for, if I had another add-on domain, I could put it in here too. But then I could change these MX records. Instead of going to the local server, I could change these over to G Suite or whatnot. So same stuff here. If I want to use G Suite or Zoho Mail, then I can do that as well. Filters. So this is for, setting up mail filters for your IMAP. So deliver to IMAP spam folder or delete the message, either one. Then you can add your filters here. For email and cPanel, I've got it here. So if I just go to email, and I can set up my global filters here. So my new filters here. So if it matches something, discard it or whatnot. So really this goes down to spam control. So both have, spam features to help your users stay protected. If I go to spam settings, this is Apache Spam Assassin, which is very popular, and this is also in cPanel. So we go over to cPanel, spam filters, and you can see here I can configure Apache Spam Assassin here, and they link to the documentation, which it's the same, it's the same vendor, just different places to configure stuff. So this is how I do the spam here, and this is how I do the spam here. Both control panels use Spam Assassin at NameHero, at least. I know these can be customized. So both cPanel and SiteWorx have Spam Assassin, which in my opinion is the best free, if not the best overall, spam filtering. So this is SPF and DKIM, and this is just showing it in a different spot. Earlier we had highlighted these, which in cPanel these are and off your email deliverability. I know they've changed that a few times. So both can set up DKIM, SPF, and stuff inside of here. All right, so that's my administration section of SiteWorx. Backups. So the user's got the option to back up now, so they can do a full backup, a partial backup, or structure only. It depends, full account or just specifics, or structure only. So partials are good, if they have multiple domains, then they don't have to take a full account backup. cPanel, of course, has backups. So if I just type up backups, they've got their backup and backup wizard. So backup, I can download a full backup, or the partial is just the home directory, or I can download specific databases, and I don't have any created, but I can click on email forwards or filters, and here's my restore section. So this Interworks here just has the backup option, so I can do full, partial. Structure only would be like just the structure of the account, not all the files, and then I can choose my location, the defaults on the server, a local file, which means I'll download it, FTP or SFTP, so if I want to send it to another server. If we go to cPanel, I can do the same. I can do a full account backup, and I can do the home directory, remote FTP, passive mode, or SCP to another server. And so you have kind of both those options. Your users have those options to back up. Management. So these are backups that you've created. So again, you can create a backup here, backup where, but then you can also restore. So this is where the restore section is for SiteWorx. You want to upload a file, or if the backup's already on the server. So if the file's too big to upload in your browser, you could manually upload it to the account via FTP or SFTP and then restore it. cPanel, you restore here. You have to restore the home or MySQL emails or email filters here. If you want to restore a full backup, you have to do that on the root level. When it says here, you don't have any automatically generated backups, your server administrator owner must enable this feature. This is to generate to automatically generate backups here. That has to be enabled at the root level, but you can't restore a full backup in cPanel, whereas Interworx you can restore a full backup inside. The full backup has to be restored by the root user. So if if you're reselling hosting, then you have to do that for your customer. Schedule. This is where you can create a backup schedule, or your users can, and you can enable or disable this. If you don't want them putting it on, their local hosts using server space, you could disable that. But what I like here is your customers can do like a weekly or monthly backup, full backup to a different server. So they could, send it off to another dedicated server, so it's not using up their web space, but it's doing automated backups. cPanel, as far as automated, these have to be enabled on the root level, but they're not really that controllable by the end user. It's more controlled by the root user for automated cPanel backups. And if I go up to their wizard too, I can set up a backup that will run, but again, I have to manually do this, like full backup and generate it. So the wizard's like that. So the SiteWorx versus cPanel has the option for the user to customize an automated backup, which can be controlled, because obviously if all your users were doing a bunch of automated backups, it can chew up server resources. And I believe that's why cPanel has this controlled by the root user or the reseller. Or actually, I think it's root, not even reseller. So if you have the VPS, you can configure automated backups with cPanel, but the users cannot, whereas in SiteWorx they can. So again, kind of same functionality, just different ways it's handled, but nonetheless that your end users can get backups, which is the most important thing. All right, so statistics, you got your bandwidth history. This shows the bandwidth usage over a period of time. I can show my details, and this just kind of shows here, here's the usage. cPanel, if I go to bandwidth, I've got it under metrics, and I can see it. So cPanel doesn't have, or Web Host Manager doesn't have a lot of charts. cPanel has these bandwidth charts, so I can see these here. SiteWorx, there's the bandwidth charts on the main page of SiteWorx. So you can see the bandwidth usages here. So if I click this, I can then see this information here. In cPanel, I see it here. So users can see bandwidth charts, in both, and they're pretty similar. All right, Webalizer. So this is an extra vendor here to see Webalizer stats. Like clicking here, I know this looks ancient because Webalizer is ancient, but some customers really like this still, and so we make it available inside of cPanel. If we go to metrics down here, metrics, Webalizer is enabled too, so they can see these same stats. Again, they look the exact same. It's the same product in both. AW stats, same thing. September. We've got Webalizer. Again, these look ancient, but some people like them. And cPanel, I can go back to my metrics, and Webalizer is default to see here. So again, same thing, different, same vendor, just different, just a way to get to it, but same stuff inside of there by default. And again, you can disable or enable these. If you don't want your customers to have those, you don't have to. Analog, so this shows just the analog stat viewer, very old school like, and again, you can enable or disable these. Like, look here, this is some malicious stuff coming in here. And cPanel under metrics, we've got the analog viewer. Someone above me is making a ton of noise. And I think this is under, it's not, it might be here. No, this is live visitors. I don't know if this is enabled by default or not, actually. So if I go to raw access, maybe it'll be in there. Nope, these download blogs. Let's see, metrics editor. Well, this just allows me to generate these two. So I think I might be able to generate analog stats as well, but I have to configure that in Web Host Manager. But anyways, I think it's they're both very similar. Your users can get their Webalizer, AW, kind of the similar stuff that they may want. And then this is our real-time graphs. So this is our bytes per second as far as how much data is being transferred the last couple of days, last 30 days, and so again this goes back to bandwidth, real-time bandwidth stats, and I think as far as real-time for here, for cPanel, this would just be like our bandwidth charts past 24 hours, not really real-time stats like this. So it's this breaks it down by the hour of the day, just a little bit more detailed stat viewing. Okay, and so cPanel, back to the metrics. I'm gonna make sure I cover all those. You know, so it's kind of all the same stuff, just kind of different spots by default at NameHero. File Manager. So this is where your users can edit their files right in their browser. So when I first looked at Interworks, this is one of the things I didn't like because it seems a little outdated. And if I want to upload something, I have to actually, you know, browse it. Or, you know, I have to, if I want to upload multiple files, I can add more here, but I have to browse for them. cPanel used to be like that, but they've recently done a lot of improvements to File Manager. So, you know, look how much prettier cPanel looks than SiteWorx. So, you know, this kind of looks, in my opinion, it doesn't look that good. And cPanel looks really clean. If I want to upload, I can click upload and I can browse for it, or I can just start dropping stuff. See, I like that. That's WordPress is like that. So it makes it super easy, whereas I actually have to browse on here. If I want to edit a file, so if I go to like key diets, HTML, and go to my index, I've got a, I can edit it here, you know, just the raw file, the raw HTML, or I can switch it to HTML, and I've got a what you see is what you get editor. If I go to cPanel, back to here, let's see if I don't know, I don't have an HTML page. Let's create a new one. So by default, cPanel doesn't create a page, but then if I wanted to edit, I could do it here and edit it this way. And I also have a HTML editor, so I could edit. And this is a what you see is what you get editor. So both have, you know, the ability to edit files and have what you see is what you get editors, you know, meaning that I don't have to type HTML code. I can just start making my page here. You know, I can make, you know, bold stuff, put different headings or italicize, you know, add my images, you know, all that stuff if I don't know code. So again, Interworks has the same thing. Where'd I go here? So it's kind of the same deal here. The presentation is just different on it. You know, just in my opinion, cPanel looks cleaner, but it's a design thing. You know, I can search for files, replace stuff in files, upload. Again, it's browser based, which cPanel is too, but I can drag and drop. If I want to do a new file, I can do it here, new folder. And they also have the protection. Okay, so this is where I would actually protect a file. So if I wanted to protect a directory, I would do this in here. That's something I missed when I was doing the directory privacy. So in cPanel, if I want to protect a directory, I can do that. I can do permissions, but that's not the same as actually going to cPanel and going to password and do password and security. Or I'm sorry, it's in directory privacy. Directory privacy. I could select a folder and password protected here. So both have the functionality, just in different spots. All right, so that's File Manager versus SiteWorx's File Manager. You know, similar, just different presentations. Personally, I like cPanel's better, but they have the same functionality. All right, so now we've got preferences. These are saving the logs. So the user has the option to save their transfer logs or not. You know, to free up space. I don't know if a user on cPanel can do that or not, if they can disable it. I don't think they can. Metrics editor. Yeah, so these are locked. You can give them the option, I suppose, you know, to not have certain logs or not. The Interworks, you know, you can do it right there. And again, I think you could disable this together as well. Subscriptions, this is like email notifications. So this is what the users subscribe to, but you can see, you know, if they want to unsubscribe, they would just click here. So, you know, if these are the notices, storage limits, SSL issues, you know, if SSL did not renew, and bandwidth limits. So in cPanel, what's this? Let's see if, I don't know if users can control these either or not. It's been a while since I've checked that. So if I go down to contact information, yes. So it's kind of same deal here. Email address change, disk quota, SSL expiry, account changes. So then the user can control, you know, what emails they're getting in both places. So I think cPanel has a couple more. SiteWorx just kind of has the basic stuff, but nonetheless, they can control them and they can have notices. Then I've got the logout option. So that's kind of that's the site that's comparing directly SiteWorx versus cPanel. I think the extras here, so if we go back into cPanel, you know, so we got File Manager, disk usage, it's shown in a different spot than cPanel. They just kind of show it here and here, so you can drill down, you know, to what's being used the most. Inside of Interworks here, as far as disk usage, if I want to drill, I need to, yeah, I don't know if I can get a drill down. It's not giving me a drill down for disk. Email is. How about disk? And so I'm not getting a drill down. I might not have something enabled, but yeah, I can't drill down on my disk. So that's a little different. And again, that might be something I just don't have enabled by default. But I like this here because if you're using a ton of disk, you can easily look, what's using it all, and you can go right to File Manager from here and delete it. So that's handy. Again, I've got Git version control. This is something new that cPanel added. Again, some cPanels don't have this. You can enable or disable. This allows your user to have a Git repository, which is not yet in SiteWorx. Databases, kind of same stuff. We already covered domains, covered that. Emails, we've covered all of this. It's a little bit more detailed. Remember, we've got the encryption, calendars and contacts and email lists. Metrics, all the same. Security, you'll notice I didn't see SSH access, but I think that could be because we have it disabled. I don't have it enabled inside of NodeWorks, so I think I would need to enable that for that user. IP blocker, we have this. We have the SSL. API tokens, I don't think that they have the ability to do API tokens for SiteWorx users yet, at least. So that's this is for interacting with the cPanel API. So if your customer has an application that needs to interact directly with cPanel's API, they could have a token, and I don't see that inside of SiteWorx yet. And again, it's maybe something else that's enabled on the back end that I'm not seeing, but that's one thing that's not there. And I know cPanel enabled that pretty recently. Let me close out of some of these so we don't get overlap. All right, so continuing on though, hotlink IP, these are all options in SiteWorx too, just different places. You got this software option here. So this has got like your PHP pair packages, your Perl modules, site software, optimized website. So these are kind of some additional things. And then you have your multi-PHP. So this is, same in SiteWorx, it's different spot. They also have their multi-PHP include editor. So your any file, you can actually choose and modify your any file here. So I like how these are easy to modify your upload limits. Whereas if we go to SiteWorx and we bring that up, and I think, let's see, I have to get back to where we were with it. Domain, secondary pointer, no, it's not in there. It's PHP options is where this is, and I can edit. You can see I can change the version of PHP, and there was another place where I can control some other stuff. Whoops, it takes us to the domain. Let's see, where do we go here? I think it was, I know we just covered it just a little bit ago. Inside of the domain itself. It's htaccess maybe. Maybe that's where we did it. Yes, so we created htaccess file. And then we can add some handlers and stuff. PHP variables. So we could do some of these variables here. But not those upload limits really quick. I'll have to look into that and see where those are added because I know that's something your customers would probably want. So this is a newer feature of cPanel 2. Once they came out with Easy Apache 4, they brought this multi-PHP editor in, which is extremely helpful. But again, both allow the ability for multiple PHP versions, which is a definite big plus. It used to be not that way. That's kind of a recent development, and I think all of them. All right, so then if I go down here, so that's, and there's some extra software things here that cPanel has added. So kind of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. cPanel's a little bit more detailed oriented, where SiteWorx is more just core based. I assume as SiteWorx continues to grow, they're going to get more of these details in there as well. And with advanced, this, I have access to Web Host Manager because I'm logged in as root. If I wasn't, Key Diets has reseller ability, so it's got access. With SiteWorx, if your user had access to reseller, then they would too. They could go to NodeWorks as well. So that's kind of the same. Cron jobs, it has it. Track DNS, this is to actually do trace routes and DNS lookups. cPanel, it's just a tool in there that cPanel has. SiteWorx does not. My directory indexes, showing how the indexes are handled, error pages, handlers, MIME types, and virus scanner. So these are all available, just different spots. This is for ClamAV. The virus scanner, I can scan for viruses. I don't think this is enabled by default. I know in email, if I go to under let's see here, where was this? If I look under, I've got my filters, but I don't think I've got virus. I know I can do this on the root level, but I don't think the user can do it on their level. And again, I might be able to enable that. But this can use up a lot of CPU for a user to do virus scanning. They're going to scan their home or whatnot for malicious software. Once again, back to that detail-oriented stuff. And then preferences, they can change their password, their contact info, the user manager, which is not really a user manager, change their language or change their style. And Interworks, if we go over to SiteWorx in here, the user has the ability to add different users, but I don't know if they can change their theme right off the bat. Let's see here. Let's go back to hosting features. Administration, user accounts. Okay, so if I wanted to change my theme, I would do it here. So my language, or if I wanted to change my menu style, I couldn't actually change my theme. I would have to do that on the NodeWorks level. Whereas cPanel, I could change my style if I wanted to right here. Change to another style of cPanel. So a little bit more flexibility there, but it is available. It's just in different spots. It has to be done with root. Then Softaculous, of course, that's included on both. So that's your side-by-side comparison with cPanel versus SiteWorx. I think at its core, it's got everything. I think both have everything. cPanel is a little bit more detail-oriented, SiteWorx more core-oriented, but the same, basic features that your customers are going to want either way. So now, I think it's up to you. What options are most important to you? Is your audience very detail-oriented? I know at NameHero, we have both ends of the spectrum. Some customers that want the core stuff or just your basic websites. The detail-oriented come to your developer customers. They have very specifics they're trying to set up in their sites. So cPanel is a better option. SiteWorx, again, those very basic accounts, fine, and even most developers probably fine. But if they want to get too specific, then maybe cPanel is another option. Then ultimately, now it goes back to the licensing thing. Do you need to? If you're obviously you're paying more with cPanel, but you're getting more detailed features. So perhaps your cPanel is a little bit more expensive than your Interworks SiteWorx accounts. So again, this is up to you which one works best for you, but at their core they are both very much the same. I do look for SiteWorx to be adding a lot more stuff. That's why me personally, we decided on SiteWorx or Interworks at NameHero because we really like their development team. They're really, really a good, great group of people. I have a lot of confidence on the ongoing development behind SiteWorx, so I really do like it. And cPanel, I've had a long-lasting relationship with cPanel. Always loved their dev team. They're always adding new stuff, and that's why I've used cPanel for as long as I have. It always changes. So, I think that both control panels, whichever one, are good options, and they both have, very similar features. So if you have any questions on this, feel free to let us know. I'm going to be covering a lot more Interworks stuff on the NameHero YouTube channel, so you can become familiar with not only SiteWorx and NodeWorks, but the entire Interworks brand. Have any questions, though, feel free to let me know in this video. You can comment below here if you have suggestions on upcoming videos or what you want to see, just let me know. But anyways, thanks for watching my comparison and using us here at NameHero.com.